The Annulus. Journey into the unknown. Through the Vortex. Yong. Copyrighted 2020 Yong. All rights reserved. The characters and events portrayed in this book are fictitious. Any similarity to real persons, living or dead, is coincidental and not intended by the author. No part of this book may be reproduced, or stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without express written permission of the publisher. Chapter 14. Journey through the Vortex. Dawn of their second day at Chernobyl. Throughout the night, the situation at Chernobyl steadily worsened. The rays of the rising sun lit up the crumbling sarcophagus over the turbine house, and the closed-circuit cameras captured scenes of light clouds slowly forming their tentacles as a prelude to form the dome. On analyzing the rate at which this was happening, the expedition team realized that they had a lucky break. With the exclusion zone around Chernobyl, electrical power was non-existent for miles except for the newly installed generators with shielded enclosures used to power the control station. This lack of overhead power transmission lines to tap into seemed to have slowed the formation of the dome by the light clouds. However, over the recent few days since their appearance, the light clouds appear to tap into the radiation from the ruined nuclear installation, absorbing from the leakages in the sarcophagus covering the melted nuclear cores. Colonel Owens roused the entire team at 5:30 a.m. and called an emergency briefing for all the teams. Everyone listen up. We have run out of time. The light clouds have gathered enough energy and have grown. They will form the dome as their next step. We know what comes after that. So, there is now a change in our plans. We send the defenders through at 0700, and if the data received shows a reasonable chance for the habitat and the team to survive the passage through the vortex, we will enter the annulus in the center of the dome. Now everyone follow me to the vehicle bay, please. You need to see our transport for the trip. They followed Colonel Owens to the vehicle hangar. Gentlemen, this is the habitat which will be the mobile home base for the team taking the trip to the other side. In front of them was a strange-looking vehicle. A quick description would be a cigar with two torpedo-shaped outrigger devices, one on each side. There were nacelles in the outrigger devices, and when examined at close range, Professor Anatoly whistled under his breath. These were ionic drives rumored to exist but now fitted as the drive de rigueur. Ken too recognized the technology tour de force of these drives and sucked in his breath. He was amazed at the realization that the USA had such advanced drive technology kept so secret that only science fiction writers whisper about. And being a non-scientist, was amazed at the shape of the habitat but was not shy at all in asking. She caught Colonel Owen's attention and pointed to the habitat and asked aloud, "Colonel, what are those torpedo-like things on the sides of the main chassis? Jet engines. Brown, ion drives matched with propellant rocket engines. A very clever combination of heavy thrust for acceleration and braking and long-term propulsion using the ion drive engines. Colonel Owen, we have wheel drive too. Putting it simply, we do not know where the habitat will end up on the other side of the annulus. So be it a planet, land, or sea, near space or interstellar space, we wanted to be prepared for almost anything. Or did I forget to mention there is a nuclear power source providing juice to everything on board without refueling for up to 5 years? Ron whistled under his breath and said, "Wow! We are riding in an all-terrain nuclear-powered cigar." Colonel Owen's phone rang, and General Wayne was on the line. General Wayne, Colonel, let me tell you the bad news. Number 1 and 3 reactors at Fukushima has been breached by the light clouds. If Chernobyl goes with Fukushima, the radiation fallout will render half of the northern hemisphere highly radioactive for a long time. Colonel Owen walked away from the rest and spoke in a low voice. "What are my new orders, sir?" "General Wayne, send the defenders through at once. We have patched the NSA supercomputers to your location, and we can analyze the data in much shorter time. You can do it there with your site equipment. Once the data gives a probable all clear, then send the habitat through. Remember your mission directives. If negotiations fail, then use the nukes." Colonel Owen, "Yes, sir." Received and understood. Meanwhile, Professor Anatoly's cell phone rang. "Sorry, Kiev is calling. I have to take this call in private, excuse me." He left to return to his own office to answer the call. Within 2 minutes, he came back to the room where they were and burst out in excited speech. Professor Anatoly, the Chinese and Japanese are in full nuclear alert. Fukushima, numbers 1 and 3 have been compromised. The light clouds are over the Chinese reactors too. Colonel Owens gave a signal to Captain Evans to conduct the briefing. Colonel, I will inform Command Center of your decision on the final makeup of the team, which will be as follows. Team Leader, Colonel Owens, Vehicle Commander and Defense and Offensive Mode Systems Controller. Second in Command, Captain Evans, Space/Airborne Mode Systems, and Alarm and Detection System Controller. And Mechanical/Electronics Propulsion Systems Engineer, Driver and Mechanic, Land and Sea Mode, Main Gunner, Master Sergeant Joe Manning, flew in overnight as Colonel's choice to join the team. Sergeant Manning snapped to attention and saluted Colonel Owen. Science Team, Professor Anatoly supported by Dr. Ken Harding. Operation of Environment Sensing and Survivability Systems, etc., Ron Carter. Intelligence and Communications Specialist Alastair Mackenzie. Professor Gerald Brown and Ms. Waterston will maintain base support on site for any transmission of signals and return of materials from the other side. Ron smiled and his face lit up in relief while insulted for not being on the team but remained silent. Colonel, so everyone on the team get ready to board the Habitat. Alastair, why are we rushing? I thought we were going to take things slow and do a trial with the 2 defenders. Colonel Owens, time is running out. Our orders are to stand by right behind the 2 defenders, which we will still be sending through. We will track the telemetry of the live animal, riding in the first defender. If it survives the first few minutes of the transit into the Annulus, we follow immediately through the Annulus. Expedition team to board the Habitat in 15 with only minimum gear of your own. The Habitat is self-sufficient for all our creature comforts. Ron, who had a keen sense of enthusiasm, and said, let us go quickly. Once we get over to the other side, we must find Jake. But what about coming home? Everyone looked at each other and there was silence. Colonel Owens, this may be a one-way ticket to the other side. We take our chances. Captain Evans exited from the main hatch of the Habitat, stepped down back into the vehicle bay and spoke with Colonel Owen. The Habitat is ready to go, sir. Colonel Owen, listen everyone, everything is ready now. OK team, 15 minutes to board the Habitat. Colonel Owens assembled the entire crew in the shielded vehicle bay and gave instructions for them to board the Habitat. Final communications check with the control room was carried out. Professor Brown and the science and military staff were on alert to monitor the Habitat in its mission. As Ken looked for and to say farewell, she was nowhere to be found. Captain Evans sounded the Habitat klaxon, and the entire team boarded and secured all hatches and doors. They were not a moment to spare. Outside, the light clouds focusing on the sarcophagus built over the entire reactor number 4 and immediate surrounding structures seemed to be close to penetrating the very thick reinforced concrete structure. They were seen to be glowing brighter and clustered together with tentacles growing towards the ground. The clouds connected in fluoresce in blazing blue light just as they did at Sun Valley and Diablo Canyon. Colonel Owens patched the video to the monitors in the auxiliary station in the rear section of the Habitat where Professor Anatoly and Ken were stationed. Upon seeing the blazing fluorescent blue light, Ken spoke into the intercom, Colonel, the light clouds are forming the dome with the Annulus at its center, just as they did at Sun Valley. We need to position the Habitat and monitor the transmitted signals from the defenders. Professor Anatoly, that is correct. If the telemetry shows the live animal surviving the entry into the Annulus, we activate our fuel rod bait. Colonel Owens spoke to Captain Evans and said, Captain Evans, I want to make a final report to the Pentagon before mission commencement. Connect me to the secure channel direct to the Pentagon. Captain Evans, Colonel, General Stanton is on the secure line through your headset. General Stanton, Colonel, the Defense and Homeland Secretaries have secured the President's approval of the weapons load in the underbelly of the Habitat. For security reasons, we did not inform anyone outside of General Robert Wayne and his team who fitted the package to the Habitat at Nellis Air Force Base. The underbelly is a shielded version of the B-2 bomber's massive ordnance penetrator modified to hold 16 thermonuclear fusion warhead missiles packing enough wallop to crack open a small asteroid. We had developed this to protect us from asteroids on collision paths with the Earth. The Russians have also contributed another 12 more similar missiles mounted in their add-on pod at the back of the habitat. You have enough explosive power to kill a small planet. Once you get over to the other side, stay in control of the command module as the heads-up display can arm and detonate the bombs, and Alastair Mackenzie is an undercover operative from the NSA who helped put these together at Trellis before he joined you at Chernobyl. He knows everything there is about these bombs. Colonel, understand that your mission is to support the scientific team to reason with the creators of these light clouds. Should reason fail, the bombs are to ensure they do not come over to Earth ever again. Colonel Owens, sir, can I confirm that I have the authority to use the range-finding lasers in the 2 rotating turrets on the top of the habitat, in the high-output mode as energy beam weapons? General Stanton, yes, they are auxiliary weapons in addition to your main pulse cannon. And you know the rules of engagement for that. Good luck on your mission. Colonel Owens, message understood and thank you, sir. Habitat over and out. Captain Evans gave a hand signal to Colonel Owens that there was another urgent call on the other channel. Dr. Harding is on the intercom, sir. From the rear compartment, Ken Harding came on the other channel. Colonel, the Annulus is forming up in the center of the dome. We must send in the 2 Defender probes now. As the Vortex formed, Ken Harding and Professor Anatoly were closely monitoring the spectrum analysis of the energy readings from the 2 probes they sent into the Vortex. The data telemetry was sent instantaneously for analysis to the NSA supercomputers and came back with almost no time delay and were displayed on their screens. Ken pointed to Professor Anatoly, here is what we recorded at Sun Valley. We have identified this tight frequency band as the most favorable for mass transfer to take place. This indicates that the twin Defender units will move into the Annulus and through the Vortex. Transmissions are expected to continue for another 5 to 6 minutes. Our hypothesis is that if the Annulus is open for that period, and if that piglet is still alive by that time, and the frequency stays in that band, it will be the signal for a safe passage for us. We must then venture into the Annulus and the Vortex. Ken, frequency is at the correct range. Send in the Defender Unit 1 and 2. The Defender Units 1 and 2 set off on their journey and rolled into the Annulus, under close monitoring of the habitat and all monitoring parties. As they watched the Annulus, the instruments showed that the readings were reaching the required frequency, all the while the cameras on the 2 Defender units as they entered the Annulus and transited through the Vortex. Ken, frequency is at the transmission zone optimal for mass transfer. Countdown begins now. The time counter ran down the expired time and they continue to monitor the life signs of the live piglet in Defender 1. Alastair, Colonel, all life signs of our piglet is A-OK. Professor Anatoly, all the data analysis is good. Environmental data is Earth-like. As far as we can determine, it is go. Colonel, everyone get ready, habitat will now enter the Annulus. Ken watched the frequency readings and spoke over the intercom. Colonel Owens, as we move the habitat into the Annulus, we wait for the Vortex to open for our passage. What the hell? And why are you in the habitat? In the control cabin, Colonel gave the signal to Captain Evans and Master Sergeant Manning to activate the engines and start rolling into the Annulus. In the back compartment, Anne had somehow got past the Ukrainian guards and smuggled herself into the habitat and hid in an equipment locker in the back compartment. She suddenly popped her head out from under the dashboard where Ken was sitting to view what was happening. "Anne, I am not being left behind by you self-important men. I've got as much right as any of you to take this journey." Ken yanked Anne into a seat and strapped her down as the habitat rolled out of the vehicle bay into the turbine house. "Sit down and strap yourself in for the ride. We have committed ourselves and there is no way to get you back to safety. And I can take care of myself anywhere and anytime." As the habitat rolled into the compound of the turbine house, the blazing lights of the dome came into full view through the monitors of the command module and the auxiliary station that the rest of the team were sighted at. The lights began to fluoresce in blazing blue light. Master Sergeant Joe Manning gunned the front and rear motors and rolled the habitat into the dome, steering into the annulus in its center. As the habitat rolled into the annulus, a vortex opened, seemed to be trailing into the infinite distance. All video monitor screens in the habitat gave out high-frequency noises that began to increase in pitch till beyond the limit of audibility of human hearing. Picture scenes of the sarcophagus with the fluorescent blue light gave way to multi-hues. The entire crew of the habitat felt their bodies float up against their seatbelts. A sudden feeling of their brain being sucked out of their skulls caused them to lose consciousness and to black out. In the command compartment, Colonel Owen, Captain Evans, and Sergeant Manning were seated in special motion-compensated seats and wearing G-force suits. Even with these preparations, they were unprepared for the motions that they were subjected to. Captain Evans and Sergeant Manning blacked out within seconds, and as Colonel Owens was about to lose consciousness, his hand continued to press down on the dead man's trigger for the explosive bolts that will jettison the framework that the spent fuel rod canisters were mounted on. But the force of the gravitational motions forced his finger away from contacting the switch. Colonel Owens then blacked out and his hand fell to the side of his command chair. With that action, the dead man's trigger activated a 3-minute countdown, which at the end of the countdown, the explosive bolts attaching the framework to the habitat will blow and separate it from the habitat. Zelia and Jake bent double over and crept along the veranda outside their bedrooms and climbed into Zuriel's master bedroom. Zelia, come Jake and help me to push aside my father's bed. Careful now, there is a guard just down the corridor outside of your bedroom. Both put their shoulders and gingerly pushed aside Zuriel's bed. Zelia reached below the carpet and removed one carpet tile to reveal a trapdoor against the corner of the room. Zelia pointed to the trapdoor and Jake positioned himself to open it. Jake managed to open the trapdoor, which creaked slightly. Zelia lowered herself through the trapdoor and stepped down the ladder built into the wall below. Zelia whispered to Jake's ear, "This is a vertical trunk where the sewage and electrical ducts go through. It leads into the basement laboratory." Jake, and that is where we have to go. Zelia, slowly now and step down onto this platform here and then step off carefully. Jake, got it. I need to prepare for the return voyage on the mass transfer. How do I do that? Zelia, we need to have your DNA sequence to program into the medical capsule so that you will have complete protection for the journey, instead of default settings which the machine used to protect you on your unannounced arrival from your planet to heal you. Jake, I understand, let's do it. He walked over to the machine pointed out to him by Zelia. Jake, this is the same machine I woke up in when I found myself over here. I am not getting into this again. Zelia, Jake, this is our latest medical pod. It healed you and it can also do a full range of diagnostics on your system, including your DNA analysis. Please trust my father, or at least trust me. I made my father promise me that he will help to send you home, and that is also what he feels is the right thing to do. So, we will not let anything bad happen to you. My father messaged me that he has done all the programming for this machine remotely from his main control console. His instructions are simple: to strap you in this couch and close the cover, and punch the start button to activate the sequence. Jake felt gratitude for Zelia's help offered to him, and he bent forward and kissed Zelia on her cheek. Then he climbed in and Zelia activated the switch to close the cover. A sensor then sent a signal to the main control console where Zuriel was monitoring. The machine started up after a countdown sequence, and a swab on a robotic arm took a sample of Jake's saliva from his gums. A series of lights swept over Jake's body and the machine ran through its pre-programmed diagnostic tests. After the lights returned to an amber color, the tests were completed. The cover opened automatically and Zelia bent over and kissed Jake on his cheek. Zelia, Jake, the tests are done. You can climb out now, and she helped Jake to climb out of the capsule. Jake, what now? How do we get me to this mass transfer bot that is going to transport me back home? Zelia, follow me, we go through the trapdoor behind this chest of drawers. There is an underground passage that links this basement lab to the house across the road. My father has prepared a remote-operated maglev vehicle to bring you to the appointed location for you to board the mass transfer bot for your trip home. Jake, what are we waiting for? Zelia, you lead, and I will follow.